Hello kids! Today we're going to talk about angles. An angle is a geometric construct, just like segments, lines, rays. Now an angle is made up of two different rays that share a common endpoint. And some people call that endpoint a starting point. It doesn't really matter. It's a point and or starting. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and create a ray. I'm gonna use a straight edge because a ray right here. And I'm gonna go all the way to the edge of the, technically, let's call this white paper the screen. Now in computer software, if you see a line or a ray, you know it's a ray. It goes on forever. It continues, the line continues until it touches the screen. Now I know it does not go on forever because there would be an endpoint. There would be a point right there if it stopped there. But because there's no point, it goes on forever. But when we are doing it on paper, while that is an option, the other option is to draw an arrow. Especially if you stopped right here, then you definitely have to draw an arrow. But you could either continue on past the screen or draw an arrow here. The end point or starting point, let's call it point A. Now an angle is made of two different rays that share a common endpoint. So they're going to share A. Let's go ahead and create a different ray. Now notice I didn't continue my line, so I definitely have to add an arrow. Okay, if this were a computer program, it would just go on forever, touch the edge of the screen. Now this is the red ray, and this is a, let's call it a green ray, and they connect, they share the same endpoint. So now they have formed an angle. Now, it has to be two different rays because if I create, here's one ray, and then I put the other ray and I connect it with the same dot here on top of it, it's still a ray. So it has to be two different rays in order to create an angle. Okay? Now, most times we don't have colors, and some people may not even have access to colors. So while it's a nice way to name an angle, or in this case, to name the rays that connect and make the angle, remember when it comes to rays, we're going to need it to name it using two different points. So here I have here, the first point has to be, you definitely need to include the end point. And then any point on that ray, let's call it B. So this red ray, we're going to call it ray AB. And the way you write it is, you start with the letter that is the end point, and then any letter on that ray, and then a little right hand arrow. Now this name doesn't change, doesn't matter where that arrow is pointing. It could be pointing here for all that matter, but the name is still ray AB. Now let's give it a proper mathematical name for the other ray that connects. And because I already used point B, let's call it point C. So this second ray, we're going to call it, again, you have two letters. The first letter is always the end point or the starting point. And the second letter is any letter on that ray. It can't be B because B is not on that ray. And then you have a little right arrow on top, meaning it starts at point A and it goes on forever through point C. And then it starts, this ray starts at point A. It goes on forever and it goes through point B. Again, it doesn't matter where the rays are pointing. The name's still the same. Starting point and a point on any point on that ray. Okay. Now together they make an angle, and we need to name the angle. And we're not going to name the angle ray AB and ray AC. It's just too much. So there's actually a few different ways to name this angle that we just created. We can call it angle A. Now it's not quite a symbol that you see in the it's not this symbol, although if you're working in computers remotely, that may be the only way you can write the angle symbol. Okay, but for now, since we're using pen, or pen marker, then I'm going to do the correct way, where there's a little straight line at the bottom and it goes up. So that is angle A. And why angle A? Because this is a really important point. It's the two endpoints are actually called the vertex of the angle. So let's go ahead and name that. So point A, I'm going to write that up here. So point A is the vertex of angle A. It's hard to write with markers, okay? Cool. So now what we have here is angle A. Now another way to name that angle, to give it a name, we have to give it a name. Everything has a name. Okay, even teachers have a name. It's not hey you, it's Miss or Mrs. Okay, so same angle symbol, the symbol of an angle. So it looks like a little, not quite like this, but more like this. Okay, and you can go either direction. You need 3 points. You could start with point C. Then the middle point is always the vertex of the angle, which is A, and then B, another point. So I have to give a point on one ray, the vertex, a point on the other ray, the 2 rays that connect to make the angle. Now there is no direction here, so another way, the third and last way to name this angle, I can start, instead of from this ray to this ray, I can start from the red ray to the green ray. So I'm going to start with a point on the red ray, or ray AB. Then the middle point is the vertex. And then I have here point C, which is in the other ray. Okay, so this is a quick review on angles.